There we go. All right, we are back. This is Jean Grey. Oh, no, it's not Jean Grey. Phoenix Resurrection. Jean Grey. That's my daughter. Number 2. I don't know what this book is called. I think it's Phoenix Resurrection.
Yep, Phoenix Resurrection.
Return of Jean Grey is the story, is like the title of the story. That's always what I want to call the name of the book.
Yeah. Yep, Phoenix Resurrection, The Return of Jean Grey. Chapter 2, All Lesser Birds. So, this is a long solicit. So the creative team is written by Matthew Rosenberg, penciler by Carlos Pacheco, inker Rafael Fontires, color artist Rochelle Rosenberg, with letterer virtual calligraphies Travis Lanham. Main cover by Leniel Francis Yu. I used to say Lionel, but then I heard a bunch of people who work for Marvel call him Leniel, so I'm like, okay, all right, I guess it's Leniel. There was a solicit in the solicitations for this issue, but the solicit actually covers issues 2 through 5, so I figure, fuck it, I'll just read it, and I'll never have to read it again for the next 3 issues. So
yeah, there you go.
So here it goes. A light in the darkness is not always welcome. Kitty Pryde, Old Man Logan, and Cyclops are leading teams of X-Men all across the globe, chasing events connected to the Phoenix. But with teammates disappearing and familiar enemies returning, the X-Men are fighting a losing battle. Beast doesn't know how or what shape it will take, but he knows they are running out of time before the Phoenix makes its true presence known. Meanwhile, a young woman named Jean is starting to go insane in her peaceful suburban life. Nightmares and daydreams are spilling over into the world and revealing cracks in her reality. Jean's life and everything in it may just be a facade, but made by who? And why? Jean needs to escape. The X-Men need to stop the cycle of death the Phoenix brings. Their worlds will violently collide as Jean searches for an opening and the X-Men fight for closure. But when they are brought together, will the X-Men be reunited with their long-lost teammate or something darker? That was pretty damn good solicit. Very descriptive.
Yeah, it helps me understand better what's going on.
It really does. It really does. I was like, that's probably the best solicit I've ever fucking read. What? Good job, solicit guy. Whoever you are that writes all the Marvel solicitations. So we start this issue off 255 miles above the Earth while an astronaut is working on a satellite. He notices a giant mass of fire coming from the opposite side of the moon. Elsewhere, Jean is in her own little universe, wherever the fuck she is, and she's trying to sleep, but she's not having much luck. She's having a nightmare and talking in her sleep, and she says, it's better this way, quick, clean, final. Which is important because this is a quote from the Dark Phoenix saga, Uncanny X-Men number 137, and it's in their Jean Grey's final words before she dies the first time. Then this Jean in this alternate or pocket reality sits up in bed and looks out the window while she's sleeping. Everything starts floating up in the air, so obviously she's the Jean we're looking for. But so then we get our credits page. Wonderful, nice credits page. Then now it's 7:36 a.m. and then Jean's up and she's out of the house. She's rushing to work because she's running late. She sees the landscaper outside mowing the lawn, and he gives a friendly good morning, and they start to talk for a second before she heads off. He tells her, they just start bullshitting. He tells her all the work he's done already, and she says,
he's basically like, she's surprised he's there because he's like early for cutting the lawn or whatever, and he's like, early, I've had a lot of help, and kind of the joke is it's Madrox, so.
Yes, he's had a lot of help, and she's like, oh, there must be 10 of you, and it is. It's multiple man. It's Jamie Madrox. Jean asked him if he felt anything weird last night, if everything was shaking, because that's what she felt. And, he doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, so she just chalks it up to her dream. And then when she heads off and she looks, she doesn't look in the rear view, but we see what's behind her. And the funny part is, when she's driving away, she's still got her coffee on top of her car, which I don't know.
Yeah, we've all been there.
We've all done that. And then when you look back, when you see what's behind her, there's like 8 or 9 different versions of multiple men just standing on the lawn, which is cool because this isn't the first time we've got a little hint of multiple man. Like first it was an Astonishing X-Men when they all went into the astral plane, and now we're seeing him here. So I'm hoping sooner or later that he either one comes back from the dead or two, it was actually a dupe that died in Death of X. So let's. I
Yeah,
hope
a whole
that's what
bunch of
happened.
dupes, because weren't there a whole bunch of them all on the ground, or am I
Yeah, there
misremembering?
was a ton of them. Yeah, there was a ton of them. There was a shit ton because when they came in, they read all the life forms, and then when they got to the ground, they realized it was just a bunch of dupes all dead. So I'm hoping. I mean, they claim that it was the actual version who died, but I'm hoping it was just a dupe who died because I really like Jamie Madrox and he's a really interesting character. I'm not going to go into that because I could talk about Jamie Madrox forever. So, so then we're checking in with the X-Men over at the Xavier Institute where they still have no clue what's going on. And according to Jubilee, they have no idea what's going on. Kitty says they're still trying to find out what's happening, but they don't really have any answers. Logan comes out and just says it, that it's definitely the Phoenix. Storm mentions that it could be Jean, but Logan quickly shuts her down, kind of gets a little pissed about it. And then Beast says Logan's right, that it's probably the Phoenix. The signals that they have been getting looks like that type of energy or what have you. And Cerebro was detecting those signatures, but they don't show any presence of any mutant in particular or mutant at all. Storm says that they should be chasing more of these signals, but there's a problem. They ran out of psychics. They don't have any psychics. Fucking Psylocke is recovering from what happened to her in the last issue. Quentin, Teen Jean, aka the Marvel Girl, and the Stepford Cuckoos are all missing due to the events of the Jean Grey solo series. And what can they do now? But luckily, luckily Cable steps up and reminds everyone that he has psychic powers because everybody seems to forget because he uses them to beat back the techno-organic virus. I don't know how much of that plays into continuity nowadays because sometimes he uses those psychic powers.
He's got a confusing damn history.
He really does because sometimes like I remember like and it's weird because sometimes he has no arm. And then I remember when I was reading Cable in the X-Force, he had an arm, but it was like a weird small baby arm. And then it's fucking weird. And it's, he uses that. If it wasn't for the techno-organic virus, he would probably be the most powerful telepath and telekinetic on Earth. But because of that, he has minimal telekinetic and telepathic abilities. So I just don't know how much of that comes into play anymore because they don't really talk about it too much. But whatever. So then if we get past that, he comes up and says, I'm a psychic, I can do something. And then we immediately go back and we check in with Jean at work over at Anna's diner. And she's serving a customer, an older man, and he introduces himself as Eric, and it's Magneto, and he tells Jean he's a friend of her old teacher. And, then they throw out like a name drop. She's like, oh, Mr. Claremont, and if you don't know what that represents, then I don't know what to tell you. And then he completes his order, and then that's it. That's all that happens. And then we go back to what the X-Men are doing at the Cerebro Hub, and Cable is trying to see if he can find any new signals. Hank tries to guide him, but it's just pointless because he's out. And then all of a sudden, he starts to sense pain, and then Cerebro explodes. And that's it.
I always thought there's a lot. I never remembered, first of all, that Cable had those abilities, and then I always thought that like you had to be a super powerful psychic to use Cerebro. I didn't know just like anybody with those abilities could use it. Well, I wonder if that's why it blew up, or if it's like the Phoenix doing it.
I think it's the Phoenix because he's got that fire on top of his head. It could just be from the exploding equipment, but I think it's from the Phoenix. Like detecting that level of energy blew it up, and I used to think that too because. I don't remember if it was the X-Men cartoon or the movie or if I read it in a comic book, but I remember at one time like Jean Grey not wanting to use Cerebro because she didn't think she was powerful enough to use it.
Yeah, maybe I'm just remembering more like X-Men cartoon than actual comic book.
Maybe, but that all that stuff was like heavily based on Claremont canon, so it could be true. Like the majority of the stuff that happened in that cartoon is all like legit, sometimes like word for word, event for event things that happened in the comic book, but who knows? Because I've seen everybody use it, like the Stepford Cuckoos one at a time. Fucking Emma Frost, Jean Grey. Like I've seen so many different psychics use it, but who knows? Like over the years, it could have been tuned down so like even the weaker psychics could use it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it amplifies. Well, I mean, the job of it is just to amplify psychic abilities. And I know maybe at one point in time it was specifically tuned to only amplify Xavier's abilities, but maybe over the years, because Xavier's been dead, they switched it up so any psychic could use it. But so after that, we check back in over at Anna's diner, and Jean is giving the order to the cook, whose name is John, and he's a Native American guy. And I thought this was interesting because you know Thunderbird is dead. I think he's still dead. So if you read Weapon X and oh my God, why is his name dropping out of my head right now?
Nighthawk,
the big Native American dude.
Is it Nighthawk?
No, it's not. I can't believe I'm not remembering this because he's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I know
characters.
exactly. Warpath. Is it Warpath?
Warpath, yeah, Warpath.
Yeah.
So Warpath has a brother who has similar abilities, pretty much the same thing, like unbreakable skin, super strength. He can track people, same stuff. And his name's John. And I think this is him because you know they do so many deep cuts in this book, and they so like you know you got Multiple Man as a landscaper. Why not have Thunderbird as the fry cook at Anna's diner? Anna's diner. So yeah, he's just a fry cook, and then Gene starts shooting the shit with Anna about the customer, and he looks familiar. And then she starts telling Anna about her weird dreams and how she's been having dreams about her dying on the moon, which is what took place in Phoenix End Song. You know, she died on the moon. It was like a big battle choir, Emma Frost, Cyclops, everybody was there. And she says that she feels like she sees all these things happening out of the corner of her eye, but you know, it's like they're happening right below the surface, and she can't get a good look at them. And Anna tells Jean that she should go talk to Dr. McTaggart to get some help with those dreams and whatnot. And you know, everybody knows Dr. McTaggart would be Moira McTaggart. And then John tells her that the order's up, and she goes out front to deliver fucking Magneto his lumberjack special, and he's not there, and the spoon's all bent, which I found interesting, you know, because when he first arrived, he had the spoon, and you could see it kind of bending, you know, and then he's gone, and the spoon's all fucking twisted up. So next, a little bit of a recall from the first issue. Kitty's out front of the Xavier Institute, and she's assembling all the X-Men are there, or different X teams, and they're all sitting there, and she breaks them all into teams again and sends them off to the new signal coordinates they were able to get before Cerebro blew up. We got the gold team, the Weapon X team, the blue team with Rogue, an amalgam of X Factor and X Force with Strong Guy, Pixie, Dazzler, and Shatterstar, older Shatterstar, not the one from Cable right now. And they all head off to Jamaica Bay, the ruins of Genosha, some sewers in Manhattan, the Savage Land, and then there's a fifth team consisting of Iceman, Chamber from Generation X, Wolverine, Boom Boom, Longshot, and Hellion, which is a kind of a deep cut because nobody's seen Hellion in a long time, and they go off to Phoenix, Arizona. Haha, Phoenix. So that's where everything pops off, right? Everybody's going to all these other places, and they just go to this boring like mansion in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where the next big thing happens. So we get Iceman and Chamber, and they're arguing a little bit, and then a version of Magneto. They run into a version of Magneto in his old awesome fucking costume, because that's probably the best costume he's ever had. So next to the one he has now, which is pretty cool, but this one was the best. So they fight for a while, and Magneto, you know, kicks their ass. And then there's a moment where, Chamber gets the upper hand, and he fucking melts Magneto's arm off. Now, normally, this might put a guy out of commission. He melts his arm off, but oddly, his fucking arm just materializes and grows back. So yeah, they fight for a little while longer, and Wolverine gets up in the mix. Laura Wolverine, obviously. She gets up close and personal, and there's metal all around them, and he's got her, Wolverine fighting Magneto. It's usually not the fucking smartest thing. So he's got her arms pinned up against her face.
That 90s cover where he had all of the shit ripped out of his body.
Yeah, he ripped the claws out of the original Wolverine. I mean, luckily in Laura's case, though, it's only her claws. Like, only her claws are adamantium. Everything, all her other bones are just regular bones. So that was a good idea. So it goes like when they were making her, they took she had 3 claws in her hand, just like Logan, and they took them out of her hand. They dipped them in adamantium, and then they only put 2 back into her hands, and they put 1 in the foot. So that's why she. And then I don't think Magneto, well, this version of Magneto realizes that she has 1 in the foot because he slips up and she kicks him right through the fucking chin, and it goes right through the top of his head, and he just fucking disappears right after that. And she falls to the ground. All the metal just starts falling all over the place, and everybody is just like, and it's kind of, this is a kind of a funny moment, right? Because they're fighting, and Magneto like orders a drink in the middle of the fight. Like, he's sitting there and he's got metal coming all over the place, and he's like, "May I get a fresh cup when you have a moment?" Like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah.
And then after the fight, boom, 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 boom's like, "Did anyone notice him order a drink in the middle of all that?" So he disappears, and then we go back to the diner, and he just shows back up in his booth. Jean turns around, and I don't know if anybody noticed, in the first panel, Jean's wiping down the counters, and on one of the soda machines, it has burns, like a fucking label of a beer or a soda, as like a call out to John Byrne. So she's washing the counter, and she turns around, and there he is. He's just sitting at the fucking counter. He's sitting at his booth like nothing ever happened. She goes back over to him, and she tells him that, you know, the breakfast is made. She had them put it back in the kitchen, and then she notices some blood coming out of his nose. And he's got this. I noticed he's got the Star of David chain on there, and he tells her it's an old war injury. But who knows? Like, when you see the blood coming out of his nose, and you think about, like, maybe he phased back into like the regular reality, and like that version of him had a fight with the X-Men, and that's why his nose is bleeding, because he just got a fucking claw through the brain. So maybe in this reality, nothing really that big happened. But Jean turns around, she looks out the window, and fucking everything's on fire. The whole entire town is just like destroyed. Cars are blowing up, and there's a gigantic phoenix in the sky, and we get a to be continued, which is a little confusing. So I'm starting to think that what we hypothesized during the first issue of her being in like the White Room or like some kind of pocket universe is what's actually happening right now. I just don't know how Matthew Rosenberg might bring her in, but I guess that's going to be the interesting part of the story when that actually happens. So my final thoughts, while we do get a little more of the same in this issue, I appreciate that Matthew Rosenberg takes his time to build up this mystery. And I have to admit, the fact that this is a weekly series makes that a lot easier to swallow, and it also keeps the details of the previous issues fresh in my mind. If this was a monthly series, it would sting a little bit, and it would suck because you got to wait a whole month, and, you know, the story just not moving a little bit faster on a month-to-month basis would suck balls. But since it's weekly, I can forgive it. It's not really a problem here for me. I really appreciate the subtle twists and turns. Once again, we get the deep cuts, fan favorite characters, and tons of Easter eggs throughout this issue. My particular favorite moments were Multiple Man's landscaping services, which is just a funny idea in general. And I liked Iceman actually making decent jokes for a change. And Cena Grace should probably take some fucking notes because his book sucks. The art by Carlos Pacheco, it was great, although there were a few pages that definitely had some faults. Other than that, he had some beautiful, clean line work for the most part, and some great layouts, and at times some great character designs. All in all, it was a buy for me. I'm still interested in the mystery. I'm still kind of hooked. I'm anticipating some movement forward after what we got here in the end of this issue. I got 2 more days, but I just hope something big happens in this 3rd issue. If not, I'm going to be a little bit pissed, but he's bought enough good faith with me so far that I'm cool with it. So
going with buy for Jean Grey.
Yeah, buy.
This one, I'm going to lean towards borrow for this one because I don't know. It just felt too much like issue 1 to me, and there was still like no reveal yet between 2 issues out of 5. So it's got me, just this personal issue got me a little bored, but doesn't mean I'm I'm out on the series yet, but I don't want another issue like if 3's like this one again, I'll be like, Jesus Christ, get to the point.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I hope that's not
me.
where it's headed, but based on that cliffhanger, I mean I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in whatever world she's in. Like, I don't think it obviously stays that way and she goes home. It's probably like a vision she's having and she's going to go get some help or something next issue. Maybe that'll lead to some answers. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I like the art this issue. The art was better than the previous issue, I thought.
Did you notice?
I didn't have the problem like with people looking the same. So that's why I kind of lean towards that way for the art.
Did you notice like certain panels, like faces were fucked up? Not all of them. Like for the majority of the issue, it was fucking fantastic. But when Kitty had everybody all gathered up outside the mansion, like young Bobby, did you see his face? Like if you
yeah, there were some of the people in that crowd were drawn kind of shoddy.
Awful. Yeah, very shoddy. And if you like when I look at young Bobby right now, I just I'm like laughing inside because just the look of his face, he looks like a fucking alien. He's got like 2 dots for like coal for eyes and a slit for a mouth. He looks like a real snowman. And
I prefer when Iceman goes back and forth from human to ice form because when he's just constantly like, snowman looking, it starts to annoy me. I don't know why, it just does. But
and he was when he first came back in like Bendis' all new X-Men, but now he's like regular Bobby. He's all iced out with the spiky ice hair, like an X-Men Blue. So I don't know why he drew him like a snowman right there. Yeah.
Who knows what the artist was thinking there? Some of those artists, man, especially with Beast, you never know what you're going to get.
No, that's true. That's definitely true with Beast.
Yes, some people just got their own image in their head of what these guys are supposed to look like, and when you see it, you're like, no, that's not right.
We get some art continuity here, folks.
Yeah, especially I feel like it happens in the X-Men more than other characters.
It really does.
But we're gonna move on here. We're gonna hit the midpoint marvelous facts and wrap things up with Rogue and Gambit #1. All right, so I'll stop this one.